if I told you that the moment you die, you make a choice that could trap you for lifetimes? What if the greatest danger you'll ever face isn't in this life at all, but in the first few seconds after you leave your body? Right now, as you're sitting here watching this, you think death is the end. Or maybe you believe it's a peaceful transition into light, a reunion with loved ones, a journey home. But Edgar Cayce, the man who could access the deepest mysteries of existence while in a trance state, revealed something that will shake you to your core. He said that most souls in that critical moment between life and death make a terrifying mistake, a mistake born from attachment, from fear, from not understanding what's actually happening, a mistake that can keep you earthbound, keep you trapped, keep you wandering in confusion while your loved ones move on without you. And the most frightening part, you won't even realize you've made it. Today, I'm going to tell you exactly what Cayce saw, what he warned us about, and most importantly, how to make sure you don't fall into this trap when your time comes. Because it's coming for all of us, and you need to be prepared. The moment of separation. Picture this moment with me. Your heart stops beating, your breath ceases, the electrical signals in your brain begin to fade, and then separation. Your consciousness, your true self, begins to lift away from the physical body you've inhabited for decades. For the first time in your entire life, you're free, weightless, untethered from the limitations of flesh and bone. Most people who've had near-death experiences describe this moment as beautiful, peaceful, even ecstatic. But Edgar Cayce saw something else. He saw confusion. He saw souls hovering over their bodies, unable to comprehend what had just happened. He saw them reaching back, trying to reconnect, trying to return to the familiar. And he saw the exact moment when everything goes wrong. Because here's what happens in those first critical seconds. You're still you. Your personality, your memories, your attachments, your fears, your loves, your regrets. All of it comes with you. And this is where the danger begins. Cayce explained that the newly departed soul, still carrying the mindset of physical existence, faces a choice, though most don't realize they're choosing. Do you move forward into the light, into the higher realms of consciousness? Or do you look back? Do you linger? Do you try to stay close to what you know, your home, your family, your unfinished business? Most people look back, and that's the mistake. Let me be clear about something before we go deeper. If you're finding this unsettling, if it's making you think about your own mortality in a way you haven't before, that's exactly what should be happening. This isn't comfortable knowledge, but it's essential knowledge. Hit that like button if you're ready to face these truths head on. And subscribe, because we're going to explore the mysteries that most channels won't touch, the truths that matter most. What Edgar Cayce saw. Edgar Cayce didn't theorize about death. He witnessed it, thousands of times. In his trance state, accessing what he called the Akashic Records, the universal memory of all souls, he observed the journey that consciousness takes after the body dies. And what he described should be required knowledge for every human being. He said that at the moment of death, the soul enters what he called the borderland. Not quite physical, not quite fully spiritual, a liminal space between worlds. In this borderland, you're still connected to Earth. You can see your loved ones. You can hear them crying. You can watch them grieve. And here's where it gets profound and terrifying. You can't touch them. You can't comfort them. You can't make them understand that you're still there. Cayce described souls in absolute anguish, watching their spouses collapse in grief, seeing their children suffer, observing their own funerals, and being completely powerless to reach across the veil. The pain of this realization is so intense that many souls simply refuse to accept it. They refuse to believe they're dead. They convince themselves they're still alive, just different somehow, invisible, ignored. And they stay in the borderland, hovering around the people and places they knew, trying desperately to make contact, trying to prove they're still present. Cayce called these souls earthbound. You might know them by another name, ghosts. But they're not the Hollywood version of ghosts, angry spirits seeking revenge or delivering cryptic warnings. They're confused souls who made one simple, understandable, devastating mistake. They looked back when they should have looked forward. They held on when they should have let go. They chose the familiar over the unknown. And now, they're trapped in a prison of their own making. The attachment trap. Now let me tell you why this happens to so many souls. It's not because they're bad people. It's not because they've sinned or failed some cosmic test. It's because of attachment. Listen carefully to this, because it's the key to everything. We spend our entire lives building attachments to people, to places, to possessions, to our very identity. We attach to our spouse, our children, our home. We attach to our career, our reputation, our accomplishments. We attach to our body, our appearance, our health. We say my and mine so often that we forget there's a difference between what we have and who we are. And then we die. But the attachments, they don't die with the body. They follow us into the borderland. Cayce explained that the strength of your earthly attachments determines how easily you can transition to the higher planes of existence. Think of it like gravity. The more you're attached to the physical world, the harder it is for your soul to rise above it. Imagine a person who dies suddenly, unexpectedly. A car accident, a heart attack. No time to prepare. No time to say goodbye. Their last conscious thought was probably something mundane. I need to pick up milk. I have a meeting tomorrow. I wonder if my son did his homework. And then, nothing. No body. No ability to pick up the milk or attend the meeting or check on their son. But the mind, the consciousness, is still generating those same thoughts. Still focused on those same concerns. I have responsibilities. People need me. I can't leave yet. And so they don't. They hover in the borderland, convinced they're still needed, still essential, still in control. Days pass, weeks, sometimes years. And the soul never realizes that the only thing keeping them trapped is their own refusal to release their grip on a world they no longer belong to. Are you starting to see it? Are you starting to understand why Cayce called this a terrifying mistake? Because it's not something that happens to you. It's something you do to yourself. Take a moment right now and think. What are you most attached to in your life? What would you have the hardest time letting go of when your time comes? Drop a comment below. Let's talk about this honestly. I'll heart the responses that show real self-reflection, because this community is built on truth, not comfortable illusions. The 3 types of earthbound souls. Cayce identified 3 primary types of souls who get stuck in the borderland. And here's what's chilling. You probably recognize yourself in at least one of them. The first type, the devoted. These are the people whose entire identity was wrapped up in caring for others. The mother who can't leave her children. The husband who's convinced his wife can't survive without him. The caregiver who's spent decades tending to someone else's needs. Their love is real. Their devotion is beautiful. But it becomes a chain. Cayce described a case of a mother who had died, but her soul remained in the family home for over a decade. She watched her children grow up. She hovered near them during illnesses. She was present at their graduations. But she wasn't helping them. She was preventing herself from moving forward. And here's the heartbreaking part. Her children could feel her presence, but they couldn't understand it. It made them uneasy. It made the house feel wrong. Some of them became anxious, depressed, unable to fully live their lives. Because the mother's refusal to let go was creating an energetic weight that pressed down on everyone she loved. The second type, the attached. These souls are bound not to people, but to things, to their home, their wealth, their possessions. Cayce spoke of a man who died suddenly, leaving behind a substantial estate. He had spent his entire life accumulating wealth, building his business, securing his legacy. When he died, his soul couldn't leave his office. He watched in horror as his heirs argued over his estate. He tried desperately to intervene, to make them understand his wishes, but he was powerless, invisible, irrelevant. And yet he stayed. For years, watching his empire crumble, watching everything he'd built fall apart, trapped by his attachment to things that, in the spiritual realm, have no meaning whatsoever. The third type, the unaware. This is perhaps the most tragic category. These are souls who simply don't realize they're dead. Maybe they died suddenly. Maybe they were unconscious when it happened. Maybe they were so identified with their physical body that the concept of existing without it is incomprehensible. Cayce described these souls as moving through their old routines like sleepwalkers, sitting in their favorite chair, trying to interact with family members, attempting to perform their old jobs. But nothing works anymore. No one sees them. No one responds. And the confusion deepens into a kind of existential nightmare. They're alive, but not alive. Present, but not present. Conscious, but unable to affect anything around them. Cayce said these souls can remain in this state for decades, sometimes generations, until finally, somehow, they wake up. They realize the truth, and only then can they begin their real journey forward. The crucial window. Now, here's what you need to understand about timing. Cayce taught that there's a critical window immediately after death, a period ranging from a few hours to about 3 days, when the soul is most able to transition smoothly to the higher realms. During this window, spiritual guides, departed loved ones, and what Cayce called beings of light are present, actively trying to help the newly departed soul move forward. You've probably heard about this from near-death experiences. The tunnel of light, the feeling of being welcomed, the sense of unconditional love and acceptance. That's real. It's all there, waiting. But here's the critical part. You have to turn toward it. You have to make the conscious choice to move forward rather than look back. And most people miss this opportunity, because in those first hours after death, they're overwhelmed. They're watching their loved ones grieve. They're trying to process what just happened. They're pulled in a dozen directions by emotion, attachment, and confusion. And the window begins to close. The guides don't give up immediately. They continue to try, to call, to offer pathways forward. But as time passes, as the soul becomes more entrenched in the borderland, as the attachments solidify into habit, it becomes harder and harder to make that transition. Eventually, the soul becomes so identified with the borderland that it doesn't even see the light anymore. It's created its own reality, a shadowy half-existence, and it mistakes this for the afterlife. This is what Cayce found most heartbreaking in his readings. Not that souls are punished for their mistakes, not that they're condemned to eternal suffering, but that they're trapped by their own misunderstanding, by their own inability to let go, by their own choice to cling to a world they no longer belong to. And the truly terrifying part? Time works differently in the borderland. What feels like a few days to the earthbound soul might be years in the physical world. What feels like weeks might be decades. They're caught in a loop, repeating the same patterns, the same thoughts, the same futile attempts to reconnect with the living. And all the while, life goes on without them. Their loved ones heal, move forward, eventually forget, while the soul remains frozen in that moment of death, unable to comprehend why everything has changed. If this is hitting you hard right now, that's okay. That's important. Share this video with someone you care about, because this isn't information we can afford to ignore. And subscribe to this channel, because understanding what comes next is the most important preparation you can do in this life. How to avoid the mistake. So here's the question you're asking. How do I make sure this doesn't happen to me? How do I prepare for death in a way that ensures I don't get trapped in the borderland? Cayce gave very specific guidance on this. And if you only remember one thing from this entire video, let it be this section. First, practice letting go now, not at death. Now, today, in this life. Every attachment you have is practice for the ultimate letting go. When something breaks, can you release it without anger? When a relationship ends, can you accept it without clinging? When your body changes, ages, weakens, can you observe it with grace rather than desperation? These are not random challenges. They're training. Every loss you experience in life is preparing you for the final loss. The loss of life itself. Cayce said that people who learn to practice non-attachment in life find the transition after death to be natural, even beautiful, because they've already learned the skill. But people who spend their entire lives gripping, controlling, refusing to let anything go, they bring that same energy into death, and it becomes their prison. Second, understand who you really are. You are not your body, you're not your job, you're not your possessions or your accomplishments. You are consciousness, you are awareness, you are the observer behind all the experiences. The more you identify with your eternal nature now, the easier it will be to recognize yourself after death. Cayce recommended daily meditation, not as a religious practice, but as a practical tool. Spend time each day experiencing yourself as pure awareness. Separate from your thoughts, your emotions, your physical sensations. This isn't spiritual bypassing. This is preparation for the most important moment of your existence. Third, have the conversation. Talk to your loved ones about death. Not in a morbid way, but in an honest, open way. Tell them what you want them to know. Express your love. Release any unfinished business, and, this is crucial, tell them that when you die, you want them to encourage you to move forward, to release you, to give you permission to go. Cayce said that one of the reasons souls become earthbound is because they can feel their loved ones desperately trying to hold on to them. The grief is so intense, the sense of "don't leave me" is so powerful that the departing soul feels obligated to stay. But this serves no one. The greatest gift you can give a dying person is permission to go, and the greatest gift they can give you is the same. Fourth, learn the signs. Cayce taught that you can train yourself to recognize the moment of death when it comes. There will be a sensation of lifting, of expansion, of sudden freedom. There will be guides, sometimes appearing as deceased loved ones, sometimes as beings of pure light, waiting to help you. And there will be a choice point, a moment where you can turn toward the higher realms or turn back toward the familiar. Knowing this in advance changes everything, because when that moment comes, you won't be confused, you won't be disoriented. You'll recognize it. You'll remember, you'll know what to do. Turn toward the light, move forward, let go. It sounds simple, and it is. But in that moment of death, overwhelmed by emotion and attachment, most people forget. Don't be most people. Fifth, do the work now. This is the most important point of all. Every reading Cayce gave emphasized the same truth. The state of your consciousness at death reflects the state of your consciousness in life. If you live in fear, you'll die in fear. If you live in attachment, you'll die attached. If you live in confusion, you'll die confused. But if you spend your life cultivating wisdom, compassion, understanding, and the ability to let go, then death becomes not a terrifying unknown, but a natural transition, a graduation, a homecoming. The work you do now, on your consciousness, on your attachments, on your understanding of who you really are, is the most important work you'll ever do, because it determines what happens in that critical moment when you leave your body. The greater truth. Now let me tell you something that Cayce revealed that puts all of this in perspective. Yes, the mistake is terrifying. Yes, getting trapped in the borderland is a real danger, but it's not permanent. Cayce emphasized again and again that there is no eternal damnation. There is no soul so lost that it cannot eventually find its way home. Earthbound souls don't stay trapped forever. Eventually, whether it takes days, years, or even decades, they wake up. They realize the truth. They accept help from their guides, and they move forward. The universe is infinitely patient, infinitely compassionate, infinitely committed to the growth and evolution of every soul. So while the mistake is real, and while the suffering it causes is genuine, it's also temporary. And here's the beautiful part. Every soul that gets trapped and then freed gains profound wisdom from the experience. They learn in the deepest way possible about the dangers of attachment, about the illusion of control, about the importance of letting go, and that wisdom becomes part of who they are for all eternity. So in a strange way, even the terrifying mistake serves a purpose. Even the suffering has meaning, but, and this is important, that doesn't mean you should deliberately walk into that trap. Just because you'll eventually escape doesn't mean you should make things harder on yourself than they need to be. Would you jump into a pit just because you know you'll eventually climb out? Would you choose a harder path just because there's learning in it? Of course not. Cayce's message is clear. Learn now. Prepare now. Understand now. So that when your moment comes, you can transition with grace, with awareness, with the kind of conscious dying that transforms death from tragedy into triumph. What this means for your life right now. So let's bring this home. Let's talk about what this knowledge means for you, today, in this life. Because the point of understanding what happens after death isn't to make you afraid. It's to make you wise. First, it changes how you live. When you truly understand that your attachments will follow you beyond death, that they can become chains that bind you, you start to evaluate them differently. That fight you're having with your spouse over something trivial, suddenly it seems less important. That resentment you're carrying towards someone who wronged you years ago, suddenly you see it for what it is. Weight you're choosing to carry. That obsession with your career, your status, your bank account. Suddenly you realize you're building a prison you'll have to escape from later. This isn't about becoming detached from life. It's about engaging with life from a place of freedom rather than fear. It's about loving people without needing to possess them, about enjoying experiences without needing to cling to them, about creating and achieving without defining yourself by your creations and achievements. Second, it changes how you face death, both your own and others. When someone you love is dying, you can be present with them in a completely different way. You can hold space for their transition without desperately trying to hold them back. You can say, "I love you, and when it's time, you have my permission to go. Move toward the light. Don't stay here for me. I'll be okay." Can you imagine what a gift that is? to give someone you love the freedom to die well. And when your own time comes, and it will come, you won't face it with the terror that grips most people. You'll face it with understanding, with readiness, with the knowledge that this is just a transition, not an ending, and that knowledge will make all the difference. Third, it changes your priorities. Right now, what are you spending your energy on? What are you building? What are you fighting for? Is it something that will serve your soul's evolution? Or is it just another attachment that will weigh you down when you need to be light? Cayce taught that the purpose of life is soul growth. Every experience, every challenge, every relationship is an opportunity to become more conscious, more compassionate, more free. The question isn't, how can I be successful? The question is, how can I use this life to prepare my soul for what comes next? When you start asking that question, everything shifts. The practice. Let me give you something practical, something you can do today to begin preparing for your eventual transition. Cayce recommended a simple daily practice. It takes less than 5 minutes, but if you do it consistently, it will transform your relationship with death. Sit quietly. Close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths. Now imagine yourself lifting up out of your body. Just a few inches at first. Feel what it's like to be consciousness without form. Look down at your body sitting there. Recognize that it's just a vehicle. It's not you. Now imagine yourself rising higher. Looking down at your home, your city, the earth itself. Feel the freedom, the spaciousness, the lack of limitation. And then, and this is the crucial part, practice letting go. Visualize something you're attached to, your spouse, your child, your home, your career. See it clearly in your mind. Feel your emotional connection to it, and then, gently, consciously, release it, not with rejection or indifference, but with love and gratitude. Say internally, I love you, I appreciate you, and I release my need to hold on to you. Feel the lightness that comes with releasing. Feel the space that opens up. Do this for a few minutes each day, not to stop loving people or caring about your life, but to train your consciousness in the art of letting go, so that when death comes, when you really do have to let go of everything, it will be natural, familiar, even peaceful. This is how you avoid the terrifying mistake. Not by learning it intellectually, but by practicing it experientially, every single day. Death is only passing through God's other door. Edgar Cayce once said, "Death is only passing through God's other door." But most of us approach that door backward, looking over our shoulder, reaching back for what we're leaving behind. And we stumble. We get caught. We miss the beauty of what's on the other side because we're too focused on what's behind us. The terrifying mistake isn't that we die. It's that we don't die consciously. We don't die well. We carry our attachments like chains. We cling to our identity like a life raft. We mistake the borderland for our new home and settle into a half-existence that serves no one. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can prepare. You can practice. You can transform death from a tragedy into a triumph. Not someday. Not when you're old and dying. Today. Right now, in this moment, every attachment you release is practice for the ultimate release. Every moment of presence is preparation for the ultimate transition. Every act of letting go is training for the final letting go. And when your time comes, when you feel that moment of separation, when you see the light calling you forward, you'll be ready. You won't look back. You won't get caught. You won't make the terrifying mistake. You'll move forward with grace, with awareness, with the kind of conscious dying that is, in itself, a profound spiritual achievement. Thank you for having the courage to explore this with me. This is heavy material. It's uncomfortable. It challenges everything we want to believe about death and dying. But it's also the most important knowledge you can have. If this video affected you, if it shifted something in your understanding, share it. Someone in your life needs to hear this message. And let me know in the comments. What's your biggest fear about death? What attachment do you think would be hardest for you to release? Let's talk about this honestly. I'll heart the comments that show real vulnerability, because that's what this community is about. Truth, depth, and the courage to face what most people avoid. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we're going to keep exploring these profound mysteries together. Until next time, remember, you're not your body. You're not your possessions. You're not your relationships. You are eternal consciousness, temporarily wearing human form. And one day, you're going to take that form off and continue your journey. Make sure you're ready for that moment. Make sure you know how to let go. Your eternity depends on it.